Have you ever wondered what truly reveals a person's soul when everything around them falls apart? Not the smile they wear in public, not the confidence they project when life is kind, but the truth that surfaces when silence replaces applause, when love turns into distance, when the world no longer bends in their favor. That's when you see who someone really is. And when it comes to a woman, her character isn't found in how she looks or how she charms a room. It's revealed in how she holds herself when everything safe, familiar, and easy disappears. The world often teaches us to judge by surface, by the way she speaks, dresses, or carries herself. But surface beauty is fragile. It fades under pressure. What stays is what she's made of inside. The strength she calls on when life feels impossible, the honesty she clings to when lies could protect her, the grace she shows even when no one deserves it. That's real character. That's where the truth lives. You can tell a lot about a woman not when she's winning, but when she's losing. When she's overlooked, misunderstood, or broken down by life. Because pressure doesn't create character, it reveals it. The woman who keeps her integrity when no one's watching, the one who stays kind when anger would feel easier, she's rare. She's the one who doesn't need attention to validate her worth. Her actions speak with a quiet power that no performance can imitate. Real character isn't loud. It doesn't demand recognition. It's the strength that stays steady when emotions scream for chaos. It's the calm in the middle of the storm, the refusal to become bitter, the courage to remain kind even after being wounded. You see, anyone can act graceful when the world loves them. But only those with depth can stay graceful when the world forgets them. So if you truly want to understand a woman, stop watching how she behaves when life is easy. Watch how she stands when everything feels heavy. Watch what she does when no one's clapping. When she faces disappointment, betrayal, or loneliness, that's when her real identity speaks. Because the mask of confidence eventually cracks, but the core of character never does. And maybe this truth applies to you too. Maybe this isn't just about noticing others. Maybe it's about remembering what defines you. When life strips away your comfort, when people test your patience, when love tests your strength, who are you then? That answer defines everything. That's where authenticity begins. Stay with this message until the end, because once you understand how to see beyond appearance, once you learn how to recognize the two simple things that reveal a woman's true nature, you'll never look at people the same way again. You'll stop being deceived by charm, by words, by surface behavior. You'll start seeing truth. You'll start recognizing real strength, the kind that doesn't need to perform, the kind that stands firm when the world shakes. And when you can see that kind of truth in others, you'll begin to demand it in yourself. That's the reward: clarity, wisdom, power. The kind of insight that makes you stronger, more peaceful, more awake. Because when you understand character, you stop chasing illusions. You start honoring substance, and that shift changes everything. The first truth is this: you can tell everything about a woman by how she treats the people who can do nothing for her. Not the ones she needs, not the ones she wants something from, but the ones who have nothing to offer her except their humanity. How she speaks to the waiter, how she responds to a stranger, how she reacts when someone makes a mistake. That's where her soul reveals itself. Because kindness shown to equals is easy. Kindness shown to the powerless, that's character. Every person can act gentle when there's something to gain. Every person can fake respect when the world is watching. But the moments when no one's looking, that's when truth breathes. When a woman chooses to remain patient with someone who cannot benefit her, when she offers grace instead of judgment, when she refuses to look down on anyone, you are witnessing the rarest kind of power, a power that doesn't dominate, but uplifts. A power that doesn't need to prove superiority, because it's built on compassion. And that's the kind of strength this world doesn't celebrate enough. The quiet strength of empathy. It takes courage to stay soft in a world that rewards cruelty. It takes discipline to remain kind when pain tries to harden you. But the woman who holds on to her kindness, even when life gives her every reason not to, carries a strength deeper than pride, deeper than ego. Her softness is not weakness, it's control. It's emotional mastery disguised as grace. Think about it. Power without empathy becomes arrogance. Intelligence without compassion becomes manipulation. But when strength and kindness coexist, that's when true beauty emerges, because she no longer reacts to people based on status, she responds based on principle. Her heart doesn't measure worth by position or power, it measures worth by humanity. And that makes her untouchable by the superficial games most people play. If you watch closely, you'll see it in her tone. She doesn't belittle, she doesn't humiliate. She corrects with respect. Even when she disagrees, her words carry dignity, because she understands that cruelty says more about the person delivering it than the one receiving it. That's wisdom. That's emotional depth. It's the kind of maturity that comes from knowing pain and choosing not to pass it on. When a woman treats people with kindness, not for recognition but because that's who she is, you can trust her foundation, you can trust her loyalty, you can trust that her love will be built on something real, not temporary emotion. Because the woman who honors others, even in their imperfection, is the woman who will never forget what it means to be human. If you ever doubt someone's heart, don't look at how they treat you when they want you. Look at how they treat others when they have nothing to gain. That's where truth hides. The ones who are kind when they don't need to be. They're the ones with character that doesn't bend to circumstance. And if you learn to value that kind of energy, something shifts inside you too. You stop chasing charm. You stop mistaking confidence for goodness. You start respecting the quiet ones, the ones who carry kindness like armor, because those are the souls that build peace, not chaos. Those are the hearts that make this world better simply by refusing to become what hurt them. The second truth is found in how she reacts when she's not chosen, when her love isn't returned, when her loyalty is met with indifference, when life says no after she gave her best yes. That moment of rejection, that sting of being unseen, uncared for, unappreciated, that's when you witness her real strength, because rejection strips away illusion. It shows whether her worth depends on validation or whether it comes from within. A woman's reaction to rejection reveals her emotional intelligence more clearly than any words ever could. Some crumble under the weight of disappointment, letting pain twist them into something smaller. Some lash out, driven by pride, desperate to make others feel the hurt they carry. But then there are those who remain still, not because they don't feel, but because they refuse to lose themselves in the storm. They let silence heal what anger would only destroy. That's not weakness, that's emotional mastery. The truth is, rejection is one of life's most powerful teachers. It forces a woman to face herself, her expectations, her illusions, her attachments. It shows her whether she was loving from fullness or from fear. And those who use that pain as a mirror instead of a weapon become unshakable. They stop chasing approval, they stop explaining their worth. They understand that being rejected doesn't make them less, it reveals where they gave too much to those who gave too little. It's easy to stay kind when you're loved, but when your heart is broken and you still choose peace, when you could retaliate but choose dignity instead, that's greatness. The woman who can walk away with her head high after rejection has discovered something sacred. Her peace is not for sale. Her value doesn't decrease just because someone couldn't see it. And that realization transforms her from dependent to divine. Silence becomes her armor, not because she's numb, but because she's wise enough to know that not every wound needs an audience. She learns that closure doesn't come from others. It comes from within. And instead of lowering herself to prove her worth, she rises quietly, building herself back from strength. Every tear turns into clarity. Every disappointment becomes direction. You can feel the difference in her energy. She doesn't chase anymore, she attracts. She doesn't beg for love, she embodies it. She doesn't compete, she simply creates her own peace. Because rejection taught her the most powerful lesson of all, that her value isn't negotiable and her heart doesn't need to be accepted to be enough. If you truly want to understand a woman's depth, don't look at her when she's admired. Look at her when she's dismissed. Watch how she responds when someone walks away. Does she crumble or compose herself? Does she curse the loss or bless the lesson? Because how she handles rejection reveals whether she's ruled by ego or guided by grace. And when you recognize that level of strength, it changes something in you. It makes you question how you handle your own disappointments. It reminds you that real maturity isn't found in how loudly you react, but in how quietly you rise. Rejection doesn't define her, it refines her. And once you've seen a woman rise from rejection with peace in her eyes and self-respect in her soul, you will understand that true power isn't about being chosen. It's about knowing you are always enough. There is a quiet kind of power that comes from self-respect, the kind that doesn't need to shout, explain, or prove anything to anyone. When a woman carries self-respect deep in her bones, everything about her changes. The way she speaks, the way she moves, the way she allows or denies access to her energy. You can feel it before she says a word. It's in the stillness of her presence, in the calm confidence that says, I know who I am, and I don't need you to confirm it. Self-respect is the invisible boundary that protects her peace. It's what keeps her from chasing what was never meant for her, from lowering her standards just to feel seen, from begging for attention that comes at the cost of her dignity. It's not pride, it's protection. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. She knows that when she loses respect for herself, she gives others permission to do the same. So she guards it like her soul depends on it. Because it does. There is nothing louder than a woman who silently refuses to settle. The world may call her distant, stubborn, or cold, but she knows better. She knows that being selective isn't selfish, it's self-preservation. She has learned that peace is worth more than attention, that respect is worth more than love that costs her self-worth. Her boundaries are not walls, they're doors with locks that only the deserving can open. This kind of strength doesn't appear overnight. It's born through disappointment, through betrayal, through the exhaustion of giving too much to those who gave too little. Every heartbreak, every lesson, every lonely night built her. Each time she said never again, she rebuilt a part of herself stronger than before, and now, her silence isn't emptiness, it's full of clarity. Her distance isn't bitterness, it's healing. Her calm isn't indifference, it's self-control. The woman who honors her self-respect doesn't need revenge, she doesn't need validation. She doesn't waste energy trying to convince anyone of her worth. She simply walks away from what doesn't honor her, not with anger, but with peace. That's the highest form of strength a person can reach, the ability to walk away without hatred, to choose dignity over destruction. And there's something magnetic about her energy. Because she no longer chases love, love starts to chase her. She no longer begs for loyalty, loyalty naturally finds her. Her frequency shifts. People can feel that she can't be manipulated by flattery or guilt anymore. She's grounded, stable, untouchable. Not because she's emotionless, but because she's emotionally disciplined. That kind of self-respect becomes a mirror for everyone around her. It challenges others to rise higher, to meet her at the level of integrity she demands simply by being herself. She doesn't preach it, she lives it, and her energy teaches louder than her words ever could. When a woman finally realizes that she doesn't need to prove her worth to anyone, she becomes unstoppable. Her validation comes from within. Her peace becomes her priority. Her life transforms from chasing love to embodying it. Because the truth is, self-respect is the foundation of all real love, and the woman who masters that will never lose herself again. The truest strength a woman can ever hold is not how deeply she feels, but how powerfully she controls what she feels. Emotions are natural. Anger, fear, jealousy, sadness, love. All of them are part of being human. But character is built in the pause between feeling and reacting. It's in that sacred space where she decides whether to let her emotions rule her or to rise above them. The woman who has mastered that space becomes a force of calm in a chaotic world. Emotional control doesn't mean suppression. It doesn't mean pretending she doesn't hurt or care. It means she refuses to let temporary emotions cause permanent damage. She understands that reacting in anger never brings peace, that jealousy never brings love, that fear never brings safety. She doesn't deny her emotions, she disciplines them. And that discipline gives her something most people never have: freedom. When a woman learns to stay centered, while the world around her falls into chaos, she becomes untouchable. People who try to manipulate her through guilt, fear, or flattery lose their power instantly. They can't control what they can't shake. She listens, she feels, but she doesn't react out of impulse. She speaks when it's time, not when ego demands it. That's emotional intelligence. Not loud, not dramatic, but deeply powerful. There's something magnetic about that kind of stillness. Because in a world where everyone is quick to argue, defend, and explode, the woman who stays calm commands respect without even asking for it. Her silence speaks volumes. It says, "I don't need to win this argument to know my worth." It says, "I choose peace over validation." And that choice, again and again, shapes her into something extraordinary. It takes immense courage to not let emotions define behavior, to stay gentle when provoked, to stay grounded when disrespected, to remain composed when misunderstood. But that's what separates the emotionally reactive from the emotionally powerful. The reactive live at the mercy of their feelings, the powerful live by their principles. The difference is self-awareness, the ability to see emotion not as truth, but as a signal to rise higher than instinct. The woman who controls her emotions becomes the author of her destiny. She doesn't get lost in emotional storms, she studies them. She asks, "What is this feeling trying to teach me?" Instead of, "Who can I blame for this pain?" And with every reflection, she grows stronger. Her peace deepens, her energy refines. She becomes the kind of presence that others feel safe around, not because she's cold, but because she's steady. This is what true character looks like. Not perfection, but emotional wisdom. It's the awareness that every reaction is a choice, every word has weight, and every decision either builds peace or breaks it. When a woman chooses control over chaos, she is no longer led by emotion, she leads emotion. And that shift changes everything. Her relationships, her energy, her destiny. Emotional control is the highest form of strength because it's invisible. No one claps for it, no one praises it. But it's what separates temporary power from eternal grace. The woman who can feel deeply and still act with clarity holds a kind of beauty this world can't imitate. She becomes light, calm, balanced, and unwavering. Not because life is easy, but because she's learned to master the storm within. Character isn't measured by what you say in grand moments. It's measured by what you do every single day when no one is watching. It's not defined by the promises made in excitement, but by the promises kept in silence. A woman's true worth is seen in her consistency, in the loyalty she gives without needing recognition, in the steady presence she offers long after the noise fades. Because loyalty is not a performance, it's a principle. It's not about perfection, it's about commitment. The woman with true loyalty doesn't shift with circumstance. She doesn't disappear when the mood changes or when the season gets hard. Her loyalty isn't conditional on comfort. It's rooted in integrity. She remembers who stood beside her when she was at her lowest, and she carries that memory as honor. You'll never see her betray someone for status or abandon someone for convenience. Because for her, loyalty isn't just about others. It's about who she chooses to be. In a world obsessed with instant gratification, loyalty has become rare. But when a woman chooses to remain steadfast when it's no longer easy, that's when her strength shines the brightest. She's not loyal because she's weak. She's loyal because she values truth. Because she knows loyalty is not about staying when she's being destroyed. It's about standing firm when she's needed, without letting bitterness rewrite her heart. It's about showing up even when the world tells her to quit. Her consistency is her quiet rebellion against a world that glorifies temporary connections. She doesn't need to announce her devotion. She lives it. Her actions speak with a purity that no words can compete with. She protects those she cares about in their absence. She speaks truth even when silence would be safer. She gives her word, and she means it. That's not weakness, that's moral power. That's the kind of depth that only people who've tasted betrayal can understand. Loyalty isn't about who you love when it's convenient. It's about who you stand by when the world walks away. And that's where the strength of a woman is revealed. Not in her ability to love when it's easy, but in her choice to stay grounded when it's not. She doesn't abandon her values just because others abandon her. She doesn't mirror disloyalty. She reflects integrity. Because her commitment isn't to the situation, it's to her own truth. The beauty of a loyal woman is that she can be trusted with silence. She can be trusted with vulnerability, with truth, with presence. You don't have to question her intentions because her actions align with her words. She won't be perfect, but she'll be real. And realness, in a world built on pretension, is everything. If you ever want to understand the heart of a woman, look at her patterns, not her promises. Does she show up? Does she stay true when it's uncomfortable? Does she honor what she said even after the emotion fades? That's loyalty. That's the quiet rhythm of consistency that builds trust, love, and peace. Because when loyalty meets strength, it creates something eternal, something that doesn't fade when tested. And the woman who carries that within her, she becomes unbreakable, not because she never wavers, but because even when she does, she always returns to her truth. Her loyalty is not a gift you earn, it's a reflection of who she is. And once you've seen that kind of loyalty, you'll realize that character isn't about what you promise, it's about what you consistently live. The way a woman carries herself through life is more than a reflection of her personality. It's a reflection of her spirit, her discipline, her evolution. You can see her truth not in her words but in her patterns, in how she faces pressure without losing grace, in how she holds space for others without losing herself, in how she remains loyal, kind, and composed, even when the world gives her every reason not to be. That's character, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself because it speaks through presence. When you look closely, you realize that a woman's reactions are mirrors of her inner world. The way she treats others shows her heart. The way she handles rejection shows her strength. The way she carries her self-respect shows her awareness. The way she manages her emotions shows her control. And the way she stays loyal through change shows her integrity. These are not random traits. They're the foundation of her being. Together, they reveal something sacred, the alignment between her values and her actions. That alignment is what makes her powerful. True power isn't about dominance, it's about direction, the ability to remain aligned when everything tries to pull you off course. The woman of character doesn't just survive storms, she grows through them. Every challenge becomes a lesson in restraint. Every heartbreak becomes a reason to love wiser. Every disappointment becomes a mirror for self-reflection. She doesn't just endure pain, she transforms it into wisdom, and that transformation radiates in her energy, calm, grounded, and magnetic. When you meet a woman like this, you feel it. There's no pretense, no performance, just a quiet certainty that comes from knowing who she is and what she stands for. She doesn't need to compete because she's already complete. She doesn't need to prove her worth because her worth is self-defined. She doesn't seek control over others because she's mastered control over herself. And that kind of power, the silent, grounded, disciplined kind, is the rarest form of beauty. But the greatest thing she teaches isn't about her, it's about you, because when you recognize a woman of real character, you begin to reflect on your own. You start to question how you respond to the weak, how you handle rejection, how you respect yourself, how you control your emotions, how you remain loyal when no one's watching. She becomes a mirror, not to judge you, but to awaken you. She shows you what integrity looks like when it walks, what grace looks like when it's tested, what strength looks like when it's silent. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. You begin to value substance over surface. You stop chasing beauty that fades and start honoring energy that lasts. You start to understand that real connection is built not on attraction, but on character. Because character is what remains when everything else falls away. It's the foundation of peace, of trust, of love that endures. If you pay attention to the right things, how she treats the powerless and how she reacts to rejection, you'll start to see the blueprint of her soul. You'll see how values shape destiny, how grace outlasts glamour, how truth outshines everything false. And maybe that realization will do more than change how you see others. Maybe it will change how you see yourself. Because the ultimate purpose of recognizing character in others is not just to admire it, but to embody it, to rise to that same level of discipline, dignity, and depth, to become the kind of person whose peace cannot be disturbed, whose loyalty cannot be bought, whose kindness cannot be faked. That's the highest form of transformation, to become what you respect. To live with such clarity, such strength, and such truth that your presence speaks long after your words end. The deeper you look into character, the more you realize it isn't something people build in public, it's something they shape in silence. When no one is clapping, when no one is watching, when the world has moved on and only they are left to face themselves. That's when truth appears, in how a woman talks to herself in the dark moments, how she holds herself together when her heart is falling apart, how she chooses peace when chaos would be easier. You can't fake that kind of depth. It's earned through battles most people never see. Character is not formed by the easy days. It's refined by the moments that test your limits. A woman's strength is revealed not when life gives her comfort, but when life strips it away. When people disappoint her, when plans collapse, when love fades. In those moments, she either breaks or becomes unbreakable. The ones who rise don't rise because they're fearless. They rise because they understand that fear can't stop growth, that pain can't erase worth, that failure can't destroy what's rooted in truth. That's the quiet fire you see in women who have walked through storms and never lost their center. Look closely at how she responds to loss, to pressure, to the unknown. You'll see a pattern of resilience. She doesn't run from difficulty, she leans into it. She doesn't react from ego, she responds from awareness. She doesn't harden, she refines. This is the mark of a woman who has faced her reflection and chosen growth over comfort. It's not perfection, it's progress with dignity, and that kind of progress radiates a peace that can't be imitated. Every time she chooses to act from integrity instead of impulse, she builds inner power. Every time she forgives instead of retaliating, she expands her soul. Every time she stays grounded when others lose control, she strengthens her foundation. These choices might seem invisible, but they shape everything. They determine the quality of her relationships, the strength of her confidence, and the calmness of her energy. She becomes someone others trust, not because of what she says, but because her energy is consistent, her presence steady, her words aligned with her actions. That's why true character feels magnetic. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand attention, it commands respect through authenticity. It speaks a language deeper than appearance or charm, the language of alignment, peace, and integrity. And people can feel it instantly. It's the kind of energy that doesn't need validation because it's built on truth, not performance. You can't learn this from books or advice. You learn it by living, by being broken and rebuilding yourself, by being misunderstood and staying kind anyway, by losing what's temporary and holding on to what's real. That's how wisdom grows, not from comfort but from pain that you survive with grace. And that's why noticing these two things, how a woman treats the powerless and how she reacts to rejection, reveals everything. Because both moments strip away performance. They show who she really is beneath the surface. When there's nothing to gain, how does she behave? When something doesn't go her way, how does she react? Those are the windows into her soul. They show the balance between her empathy and her ego, her maturity and her pride, her strength and her softness. When you start observing this deeply, not with judgment but with awareness, something shifts in you too. You begin to crave authenticity. You begin to admire kindness that costs something, loyalty that endures silence, patience that survives disappointment, and eventually you stop looking for perfection in others because you're too focused on cultivating it within yourself.